I want to welcome all of you to this gallery talk. I do this show annually, and it's an important show for me because even though I'm represented by gallery, the important thing is a lot of these paintings would not be seen. There would be a handful that would be in the gallery, and so for that reason, I want people first of all to see what I do because this is a year's work, most of it, and it's a way of clearing out my studio. So I think that this is important. We sold a number of pieces so far, and I'm very pleased with the last night's crowd, and um, so this is only up for today, so keep that in mind. Now, if you see a piece that you're interested in, you can always get in touch with me later. But in the case of someone who came in today, they were interested in a particular painting and it's no longer here. So, just keep that in mind. I think that this is the way things work here. And, I can't hold it if you're interested, but you don't commit to buying it. So in any case, that's, just to notify you about that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the screen with you. We have it up here. You should be able to see what I'm talking about. And so I want to go to the PowerPoint here. Okay, so we're seeing that up there, I believe. Okay. And this is what I do normally, by the way. We teach classes on Zoom. So our classes sort of look like this. All right. I think there are a number of people here who study with me, so they know what we're talking about here. Okay. So I got to end the show and start it from the beginning. So that's the next thing. Let's see. Okay, here we go. This, first of all, just for all of you, I do a number of things. This is essentially my residency. I was accepted to do this residency more than 30 years ago. All right, I've been teaching here at Glen Echo since the 1980s. So I'll give you an idea of how many students have passed through the Yellow Barn or my teaching. And I used to teach at Walt Whitman High School for 30 years as well. And I started this while I was teaching at Whitman. So if you ask, did I ever sleep at night? No. So now you know why I produce as much work, because I don't get to sleep. All right. Uh, the but if anything, I think the most important thing is that I try to make this a really a cultural place where you can come and you can study with some of the most outstanding instructors that I can find. I've got Holly Bueller back there in the corner. You want to put your hand up, Holly? Holly Bueller. Holly Bueller. You want to put your hand up? This is one of our instructors, and she's an incredible colorist. And then we have Justin Piles that's sitting here. And then we have Alethea Kushkan right here. So is there any other instructors? I think the three of them are here. So we do have like 35, if you can imagine that. And they teach everything from digital art to art history to drawing and painting. So the program is a really outstanding program. And I think, if anything, when I started this place, I said it would either be great or it would kill me. I'm still alive. So it's great. Okay. I want to just tell you a few things about myself. I'm doing critiques of work. And if anybody puts together a body of work and wants to have a review of the work, I can do that. But this is a great gift for the holidays. If you know somebody and they have a body of work and you might want them to have a review of the work. It's a very popular way of working with people one on one, and it's something that I do, and it's like I said, I do it all the time. So if anybody's interested, that's on our website. We also do, if you look around the room here, you're going to see that we do workshops, and there are a number of paintings from Norway. There are a number of paintings from Spain and Portugal. And let's see where else did we go? We went to the Dolomites and the Italian Alps the Italian Alps, which are Dolomites, and we went to Venice last year as well. So we do like 3 international workshops. This one that are coming up this coming year will be in Puglia, which is an area of Italy, which is that spike on the boot, of Italy, and we'll be right down at the end of it. All right, and it's really a magnificent area, beautiful. I've been there when I would take these ferries from Greece to Italy. We would come and land in Brindisi. So this is the area that we're talking about, the east coast of Italy. And it's the oldest where we're going to be, with Matera as one of the oldest areas in Italy from the standpoint of culture. And so if you're interested, the price is pretty reasonable. It's $38.99 for most of your meals and your lodgings and that. How many? I know we have a number of people that have been on a trip. You guys have been on a trip. Yeah, Sandy and Doug. So this is something that we all know how it works, and it's very popular. So we do have room for Puglia at this point. That's going to be in April. And so if you're interested, you need to get in touch with me, or we have on here information on tiernotours.com. And they are the ones that handle our trips. The other trip, which is really fascinating, is we have a trip to Croatia. And the price you see is $41.99, but we're on a boat and you get all your meals, and it's really a fantastic yacht. So it is our own yacht. So I'm going to show you, this is Puglia, by the way. Okay. And then this is our yacht. So yeah, oh wow. All right. Anybody that has a workshop and has their own yacht, let me know. All right. Because this is a first. But in any case, it's a really nice boat, beautiful rooms, good food. And we will be stopping at these individual areas along the Croatian coast. It'll be determined how long we stay based upon what we want to do. All right, but we'll get off during the day and paint on land, and then we'll be on the boat at night. So that's how it's going to work. Okay, so if anybody's interested, what happened is that our September trip filled up in a day and a half. All right, so we had to add another one. I can't believe I'm going to be in Croatia twice in the summer. All right. But we're going to be doing that in the end of June. And that one has some rooms at this point. Okay. But it's very popular. And, you can swim off the boat. It's really quite nice. All right. So those are the trips. These are my winter classes. I do have a number of them on Zoom. So if anybody's interested, you can sign up on Zoom or online at yellowbarnstudio.com. But these are the classes that I'll be teaching, and looking forward to it. But I haven't retired yet. You'd think that I would think about retiring, but somehow not there yet. All right. So we're running a series of mini classes that's going to take place right now in December, and they're going to be short. They're 4 classes. But if you want to learn how to paint gouache or snow or dealing with landscape painting, the basics or color, those are 4 of the classes that I'll be offering in December. Okay. Next, this show is my new work. What I mean by new work is most of it is done within the year. You'd be surprised to look around the room and you think that I paint these paintings maybe a lot longer than they are. Every one of them is one session. All right. It's very seldom do I go back and paint more than once. So when you're looking at the snow paintings, that's one day, all right, of me painting. So it'll give you an idea of the nature of the work. I'm a very immediate painter. So that's one of the things that I find to be important. But I always look at it this way. If somebody can take a photograph quickly, I can paint just as quickly. All right, that's how I look at it. So I want you to understand that that when you walked in that door and you saw that first painting on the right, which is the show card painting, I think the important thing about that is that took place in a split second. and I have to paint that fast. So it's one of the interesting things, but I've been doing this for 50 years. I think that what you learn is courage. That's what you learn. You do it. All right. Don't worry about it. And don't go around saying, oh, I'm just a beginner. That's not the way we look at this. All right. So this exhibition is about my journey. And I think that you'll see that, for instance, this particular painting, uh, it's philosophical. So this is about yellow and purple. All right. And so in building sunlight, I did this, it was on a video that was promoted by Art School Live, in which Gavin Glakis, who teaches here, was one of the moderators. And I did a demo for I think probably 9,000 people have seen it at this point. All right. And it's all about purple and yellow and how you start your paintings with purple and yellow and how it really works. All right. So this was done one day here at Glen Echo when they were having a festival. I'll give you an idea of the sunlight. So you're going to say to yourself, well, what's your journey? Well, I look at color like people look at music. I look at color for vibration. So what I'm trying to do in every one of these paintings is create the sense of vibration that I experience when I have that moment in time. And it's like music. So I like you to think that every one of these paintings has a piece of music to it. But if you understand vibration, we internalize it, we feel it. So for me, color is all about feeling. And I think that this is important for all of you to recognize. And I think this is the painting that I talked about that was just a split second. How can you paint two guys, going through a beam of sunlight, and try to capture it? Well, there's more to it than just seeing. And there's more to it than having your mind tell you what to do. You can't paint this by having your mind in the way. There's no way that you can be an analytical person when you make a painting like this. All right. It just comes from your response. And you're using, I always laugh because all of these come out of a tube like your toothpaste. Can you imagine that you can make something out of toothpaste? All right. I mean, this is what you have to understand. It's just out of a little tube, And so how do you get something that's profound enough? I know when I do, they're hard to get because they don't happen. But when it happens like this, all right, how did I do it? I just truthfully, I knew the guys were coming and they would go through that beam of sunlight. So I watched them as they went through, and I didn't necessarily paint them right exactly when they went through because I had to register that image in here. All right. And that's the image that I saw. So not that I want you to think that there was a picture there, but it built itself. Okay. Every great artist paints what he or she is. That's what Jackson Pollock said. So you're going to look at my work and you're going to see someone who loves nature, loves color, all right, loves Maryland. I mean, a lot of these are the signature of Maryland. That is perhaps what I would rather be than try to paint something that like the Alps where I've never been, maybe. You see what I'm saying? So it's really important that I paint my surroundings. And I'll talk about that in a second, but that's my philosophical point of view. It is about color. I got to thank Ben Summerford, who was an instructor that I had at AU for opening me up to color. It was funny. I just share a story with you. I had a collector who bought one of my pieces, and he had me come to his house, and he had it up, and he was really proud of the fact that he had the painting. That's one of the things about collectors. They love paintings, okay? So I think that the important thing about that is that I go and I visit his house, and he takes me up to where he put the painting. And who does he put the painting next to but Ben Summerford's? See, he's a collector of well-known Washington artists, right? And so I said to him, I said, God, can't believe you put me next to Ben Summerford. He didn't know that it was my instructor, all right, but somehow the paintings complemented each other, all right. So that was a real moment for me. I really felt proud being, next to Ben's work. So my response to nature and using paint, the medium to paint is paint is the music. That's what I'm going to say. And I'm drawn to the vibration of light, just like all of you are. So I think that's one of the things about being a human being. And I'm also drawn to nature's emotions. So I do put figures in the work. When I put figures in the work, it's more about human emotion over nature, but still nature is in control. This is a painting that I have over there that's a really interesting painting, because in it, there was another figure, and it was in there for quite a while. And I always liked the painting because of that figure. But you want to know something? It didn't make the painting. So I've looked at that painting for years. This, when you say new painting, well, that's a new painting because I took the figure out. All right. I looked at that painting for years, and I always would say, oh, maybe I should take the figure out. And then I'd say, nah, that figure's too good. All right. It's a really good painting of a figure. Well, guess what? When I took it out, it became a painting, and I think that you could feel it's a kind of echo right there. And I thought to myself, I need that echo. I don't want this thing to feel too flat. And honestly, that presence just changes the dynamic of this painting. So, this is a local scene. This is over at Great Falls, Virginia. This one, I would just say this. I posted this up on Facebook, and it sold right as soon as I posted it. And you're going to say, well, what's your painting about? There are areas that I paint over and over again. This is Lander Landing. You'll see it right here, up here. Okay, you'll see it as you walk in. You'll see a number of really abstract ones. You're going to say, do you paint abstractly? The nature of abstract painting, the real thing about it that really doesn't make any sense is that a lot of people think they're abstract painters because they just put paint on canvases. Okay, they only put paint on canvases non-objectively. They're not really thinking about objects, so that's quote abstract painting. But that's not abstract thought. Sometimes that is as analytical as you painting a still life. So this is more what I would call the abstraction of an idea. And that's what I consider abstract painting. That's that stage that an idea goes through that every one of you think about in everything that you do. But you go past that point. But that's the inspiring moment. How you build that is something that this is another split second idea. It's aggressive. It's intuitive. It's there's a certain sense of connection, okay, because there are certain elements that you will feel their distance, you'll feel their temperature and things like that make you think in terms of maybe it being a landscape. But the reference was the landscape. Okay, I think that was it. That little boat came from that first painting that was in here. It was never in the one you walk into the room on the right, the one I just showed you. I put that little boat there only to be discovered as a moment that maybe is more of a something that all of a sudden makes a little sense from the standpoint that it becomes something that's happening. I thought that it would make the idea have a particular point, okay? Instead of it just being a kind of a constant, it became more of an element that you discover. But that was an interesting one because I do a lot of these, and they're usually, in the case of this one, right at the end of the day, right before it got dark. I had just painted another painting. I'm not done. All right. Just because I painted a one sunset in the time that it took to paint a sunset, I could paint two or three. And so I grab canvases all the time and do that. There's another one, a little one that's back there hanging up that's a pink and brownish one that was done in a very similar way. It's in the back. So stylistically, I'm borderline representational. When you look at this painting and the paintings right here, and you look at how to make little pinnacles on the top of the railing that's here. All right. If you take a good look at that, it's just like little dips of the brush. All right. And yet it reads in a representational way. And from across the room, it looks relatively realistic. All right. So keep that in mind when you're studying these passages of paint. Just see what I do with the paint, because the whole nature of the idea is in the paint, not only in its application in the direction that I paint it and the feeling that I'm using as far as the thick thin relationships, things like that. So how many times have I painted this building? Probably 3 times or 4. This is the last one. So it'll give you an idea of the my experience with it. Do I find it interesting? I find it incredibly challenging. I would just tell you, I've tried painting it from the other side, and I have not been successful. It's really interesting, but it's like one side I'm really successful with. All right. This one came from Crete. I call it the bird feeder. I actually did 2 paintings here. One is a gouache that I did that I didn't show. It was sold in this show, and it left with another painting that was very interesting. It also was a painting from Crete, but the woman, when she bought it for the color for both of the paintings, not knowing that I painted them both in Crete, because Crete has a kind of a feeling of light that you just wouldn't get here in Bethesda. All right. So it's really interesting how she's being attracted to that. But you can kind of see how I deal with color. And one of the things just to keep in mind what I'm dealing with passages of color is not the color by itself. It's mostly the color, how it affects another color. So it's really important for you to realize that I do see these colors, and I don't tend to think that I shouldn't. But a lot of it has to do with what's up against what. And so when you read this painting, you'll see the patterns, especially in the sky. You'll see the variety of different colors. In that sky, the reason that this is a dark violet is because this made the sky dark violet. I'm not looking at the sky and generalizing, saying the sky's blue. I'm literally seeing the color that's influenced by another color. All right. Now, a lot of human beings don't see that, but this is what I try to teach people. So this building made me see a really saturated piece of green here. Okay. And I'm open to that. So I think that's important. I added the figure because I needed something that gave it a human presence. Otherwise, I don't think it would have made the painting. The painting was okay, but it needed this piece of red. So it was so putting a piece of red there, I made it in the figure, and then I thought, well, the birds were there, and the guy was feeding the birds, so I put it in. But it's an addition. You can feel what it is for the design. It pulls your eye in like this, and I think that, and a lot of it has to do with that diagonal that's coming across here. But it's really interesting how your eye plays back and forth with certain colors. So this was a painting that I always liked because, again, it's abstract. It's paint. I'm not trying to disguise paint. I'm using paint like it's coming out of the tube. All right. But now all of a sudden that paint's made something visual, something you can relate to. The other one back there, it's all about the paint. Go study that for just the paint. I think it's not a boat. I think that this is one of the things that I want everybody to recognize. And I feel the importance of people recognizing that. But for me, paint can be sculpted, it can be scraped, it can be dug. It's all about the feeling. I stood on a dock late at night painting that one. I had a group of people that didn't want to go home. They were all painting too. We painted till like 1 or 2 in the morning. All right. And I had to tell them to go home. No, they were so intense. It was such a great group. This one, I find that nature provides endless amounts of visual sensation. Sometimes you have to go look somewhere else. I was out, this is where I paint at the river, Lander Landing. These guys hang out there all the time. There's a small one where the guy's dressed up in he's dressed up in a really heavy winter coat. That I sometimes will paint them because they're an interesting kind of relationship to the landscape. But these people, they're there every weekend sitting along the river, every weekend, no matter what, whether it's cold, icy, whatever, they're right there. It's really a very interesting thing. They just love it being in that spot. Don't get, you know, they're absorbed in it. But this particular time, I needed to think in terms of what nature provided. And truthfully, it was a backdrop for this conversation. You never run out of ideas because they're never 2 days alike. And that's the other part of making paintings. I paint every day like it's the only day. It's not like I'm going to go back the next day and I expect that it's going to be the same. It's not. And I think that if I can finish the painting quickly enough, that helps. This was done, it was a really interesting painting because the reason I included it, I actually like this painting. I don't know how many people respond to it, but I respond to it because of there's sort of essential nature to the light. And the light was sort of one of those overcast days, could maybe rain. There wasn't a figure there. I put that figure in for this show because the painting wasn't interesting enough at that point. All right, even though I had worked on it, why wasn't there a figure? Because there wasn't one. You know, it just didn't walk by. It was an empty place. Well, I kept saying to myself, well, it needed to have something, and I just thought, well, what does it need? Well, I could see the person kind of shoveling the weeds. All right, so it was like that's what it became. All right, but it's all about the color for me. And I think that the relationships of building an idea that you can respond to and I can respond to, I think is important. So do I see myself as a realist? Well, that's something that we'll talk about here in a few minutes, but no. Okay. I'll talk about that. Maybe I should not say no, because from my point of view, these paintings are my thoughts. You understand? They are real. I'm just communicating them to you. So they're real in me. So for me, the mind, eye, and hand have to be together. This is one of the things that is real important about understanding painting. There are a lot of people that just use their memory, or they usually that's the case where they use the memory and then they make the drawing. Okay, I'm making the drawing and my mind and hand are all at the same place. It's sort of like a conductor, meaning that when I'm doing this, my eye is doing that. Okay, so I just have gotten so used to that I just respond in a way that my mind is moving, my hand is moving, and my words are moving, you know? So I think that this is the key here. And I worked the whole painting simultaneously. Another one of these quick paintings, probably done in an hour and a half. Okay, done on a black ground, so I didn't have to paint half the painting. That's the other part of it, learning how to paint, is having that underpainting that really makes the underlying element of the painting go actually faster whenever you're trying to make an idea that's quick. Intuition takes precedent. That's in my work. I'm a very intuitive person. I respond. And that's what the paint is about. I came to understand the power of color has I came to understand the power color has in inspiring us in our everyday lives. I can't drive down the road and just drive to go shopping. If I'm driving down the road and there's a piece of yellow, I pull off the road and paint it. All right. So my car is always full of paint. All right. I think that the thing that I want to understand, this poor tree, you know how people buy a piece of property but never see it in the fall. Well, this was bought in like the spring. People went, they had the builder come and cut this tree down. And I thought, do they realize what they lost? All right. Well, they would never know because they weren't there. But I came back to paint it again this year, and it was gone. And I thought, oh my God, could it be that way? So I let things like intuition drive me. I feel the color, and it just makes me want to enjoy it. And that's the other part about painting. It isn't for you that I'm painting. So I'm having a show, but truthfully, it's me and my experience. It makes me who I am. So what is painting? It's a record of your thoughts. And I think that's one of the most important things to keep in mind. These are all my thoughts. They're not paintings. That's how I look at them. And keep in mind, as Plutarch said, painting is a silent poetry, and poetry is painting that speaks. So I think that you want to understand the nature of how important painting is. And every painting for me, like I said earlier, is a piece of music. And painting doesn't require memory to experience it. That's the other thing. So you look at these paintings, you don't know what I went through when I painted this one, but I literally in Bergen was the only person out on the street in pouring down rain with a poncho on painting. All right. And then eventually people came when it started to get a little bit better. But it was like, okay, what am I going to do? I'm in Bergen. It rains all the time. It's like Ireland. It rains all the time. What am I going to do? I'm going to paint. All right. So you can paint with oil in the rain, just so you know. Okay. So painting is just, and I look forward now to painting in the rain like this. So I just wanted you to recognize how that works. And painting is just another way of keeping a diary, as Picasso said. So this is one of the places that I've been. Philosophically, my work evolved to reflect my temperament. That's what you're seeing. And I think that the subjects that I choose, sometimes I choose a challenging subject because it's challenging. I look at this as problem solving. Normally, when it snows, I run outside right away. Okay. I mean, I go as soon as it starts to snow because I love snow, but we don't have any here. All right. So these are all like paintings that have come about, some of the snow paintings in like 1 or 2 days is all it is. All right. It's gone. So I think the interesting thing with this one that I'm showing you, it's right across the street from my house. And the other ones are framing that large cow painting. That's, if you walked out from my house, that's the bus stop that my kids get every morning when they go to school. All right. So the woods is the most challenging. And the woman that bought it, she said she's really driven to it. And she really, what was interesting was she was able to make sense of something beyond the woods, which I think is what I did, which it was good that she picked that up because really there's sort of, you can see some man-made rhythms. All right. There's nature's rhythm, and then you can see man-made rhythms. Do you understand what I'm talking about? That's not a house. It's a man-made rhythm. And I think if you pick up on that, you'll understand what I'm talking about. This one, the woman who bought it is really fascinating. Last night, she was talking to me. Why did you paint a yellow sky when it was raining? And I said, well, I painted the canvas yellow first. Actually, I did, but the whole reason behind it was that it does look like that in the rain. Okay. And I think that this is another Bergen painting. So it'll give you an idea. But there was a period where I was really painting a lot of underpainting with yellow. And I still do now. And actually, that really builds sunlight. This one, I've never shown this painting, but I've had it for a while. I think I did it in 2018. Lecture to the students that I was with. We were painting on the spot. I was trying to get them to understand that trees were more than trees. And so I called this one the artery. I literally looked at a tree and it was red, and I could see that, that's what trees are. They just bring the nutrients up to the leaves, right? So you have your major arteries, and then you have your capillaries, right? Okay. So this was about. So the keys to making a good painting, think it and you will see it. If I want to see red in a tree, I can see the tree is red. All right. I can look at each one of you and I can find a color of the spectrum and paint you that color because you have all the colors spectrum in you. And the other thing is that it's how you build it. So you have to understand design, you have to understand emotion, and this I wanted the emotion so you could see what I did compositionally. So I feel it. All right. I internalize it. And it is my fuel. So if you wonder why I still don't have really a lot of gray hair yet, okay, that's because I am immersed in color constantly. I will tell you that will be your, you want some good medicine. All right. That's the medicine that I will tell you that to have is color because it will generate energy, right? Yeah, tomorrow, right? There you go. So just keep that in mind. The other is sometimes you get bored painting the nature. And that's what happened that day. I had my group painting and I thought, well, I don't think I want to paint what they're painting. They were painting the river and that. So I said, maybe I'll just paint them. I don't know how that's going to work out. All right. It's just pieces of paint. It's a language. Keep that in mind. All right. And you really are just putting down dots of color and it becomes an idea. Okay. So I get caught up in expressing the immediacy and movement around, us and subjects have changed. These people didn't stay still. They didn't, light wasn't staying still. You have to make an idea. And there are three people here that's Jolie, that's Susan, and this I forgot who she was, but she took a class with me. But I can identify them that way. This one is an older painting. I just love it because it just has the feeling that I want in the paintings. This is in Bratislava. Stop for lunch. My goal is to capture the freshness of the paint and my thoughts. And if I can communicate that feeling to you, that's what it's about. This one sold. It left. They took it last night. It's a woman that's she's going to have a big house tour in she lives in Stanton, Virginia, I believe, and her house is on the house tour. And this is going to be the painting that she's going to have as you walk into her house and see the hallway goes straight back. She came here to buy this painting. This is a very interesting painting too, because you're gifted with epiphanies when you're out painting in the present, which means on the spot. That's what you have to understand a little bit about the word present. It doesn't mean in the present. It means you get a present. Okay. And that's what that boat was when we walked in. That's what this one was about. And when I can still feel me painting in this cold snow, with the sun going down, and it wasn't finished because I had painted yellow light here, and it never really worked for me, even though I thought I saw yellow. So I'm sitting in the studio and I'm saying, it was never yellow, it was orange, and as soon as I put orange in it, it came to life. Okay, so I think that's what we're talking about. This one's back there. This is where you realize ideas are born abstractly. Okay. And the 9 things that I think you need to think about when you're making a painting, first of all, is the emotion, the feeling. That's the most important thing. So every one of these paintings is orchestrated for a certain feeling. Okay. And I grew up in Pittsburgh. So growing up in Pittsburgh, what kind of feeling do you think I have internally? All right. It's definitely not a calm place. All right. And I think that when I moved to Middletown, Maryland, I taught at Whitman. I could have very easily lived in Bethesda. All right. But Bethesda, I couldn't live in. So I moved all the ways out to Middletown. All right. And I drove for 30 years to Walt High School. All right. And every day that I drove back to that place, it was like a gift. I mean, it was really something that emotionally for me that it was worth all the time in traffic. Okay. So for me, being, growing up in Pittsburgh, being out in the pasture was like where I felt calm. right? So that's what it is about. And when you're looking at your paintings, paintings have an element of description. I only want to give you so much. Okay. Paintings have an element of expression. I want to give you more in the paint. Paintings have a psychological element. I want to put psychology in every one of these paintings. I want you to feel something that you don't necessarily know why, but you're drawn to. All right. And it has a lot to do with the way you arrange things. I want it to be symbolic. So it takes on multiple meanings, like the bridge over here is just not a bridge for cars to cross the creek. It's for you to take your thoughts to the other side. Okay. So I think that there's more to bridges. And the tactile property that paint speaks, the atmosphere. I deal a lot with spatial properties. Somebody was talking about the green that's in the big cow painting and how that green works in that painting and why it works. And I knew that field felt so controlling and so commanding. All right. I wanted you to feel the presence of it. I painted that from life, by the way. I took that canvas out on the spot. And then I finished it from memory because I had in the foreground, well, not from memory, I finished it as far as design is concerned by simplifying the foreground. I think that was important. So I feel good about it now. My wife doesn't want to sell it, just so you know. A lot of paintings here she doesn't want to sell. Last night she put a red dot on one just because she didn't want it to be sold. All right. And then theory. Theory is always an element that works in every one of these paintings. There's a critical eye. You have to just look at your work. But where people go wrong with criticism, or their own personal criticism of their work, it only comes after you've worked on the idea. It shouldn't come while you're making the idea because you don't want to prune a plant. You want it to grow. You only prune it afterwards. Okay. So that simplifying is sort of like the pruning. But if I had done that beforehand, I probably wouldn't have gotten anywhere with it. So I want you to understand that. What I judge in a painting, I judge feeling, as I said, I judge the idea, I judge invention. Okay. I really look for the unique approach. So I want to paint it in a unique way. I want to paint it in my way. And the color, one of the most important things about color is the rhythm by which you see the painting. And you orchestrate that with your color. And I think the most important thing, is do you want to make it dramatic? I want you to discover something, but I want you to also have a certain, it needs to be provocative. And of course, there are other elements that are important as well. But the last two, craft and the narrative, they are important. The narrative is important, but you cannot build your narrative on something too specific because too specific doesn't last. I try to build a universal narrative, something where my paintings will last longer than the period of time that they were painted in. You understand? Toulouse-Lautrec has a problem. He dressed everybody up in a 19th century outfit and they all have top hats. Just doesn't work. All right. Unfortunately, it doesn't work. And I think that that's one of the things. And then a good painting. I just sold this one this afternoon. Very fascinating. Sold it to a woman that went to graduate school with me. All right. Years ago. And it's interesting, but this is a painting that went through 5 or 6 different changes. Eventually, I told her, I said, I can paint cows from memory. All right. A good painting is comparable to good cooking. Even a good cooking recipe demands tasting and repeating tasting while it's being followed. And I think that it just didn't feel right. You understand? It didn't taste right. So I kept working on it and I was pleased with it. But you want to know what I'm pleased with? I'm pleased with all the surface that I had to build underneath of all the change that all of a sudden made something like that work. It could not have worked immediately. It had to be painted and repainted and scraped and repainted and scraped. It's really interesting how that worked. These are the guys again. That's the guy that's dressed up. The aim of art is not to represent the outward appearance of things, but their inner significance. That's what Aristotle said. I try to get into that inner feeling. I want that guy cold. I want you to feel his, he was the focus. I want you to feel what he's doing with his body. All right. And if I can communicate that, then that makes me feel good about it. Now, for all of you and the painters in here, you have your own palette. But guess what? The same ones available, the colors that you have are the same ones that are available to Da Vinci and Monet. All right. So if they can do things with color, you can too. So there's a Monet here on the left, and this is my painting that's down on the floor from the Dolomites, and it's the same colors, you know. So just keep that in mind. I'm not wedded to photograph. I'm not wedded to trying to make something look like I want to do something beyond the photograph. All right. That's what I want you to understand. Photographs for me, just don't do it. All right. There's something more. And understanding your palette, obviously every one of these has a certain arrangement of color. Those colors speak in a kind of musical tone. That's how I look at the colors. I can hear their sound. I can feel them. And that's how I make paintings. This was painted as soon as the sun set. I mean, this is not like I'm going back into the studio and working on this painting. Just that immediate. How big was that painting? This big. All right. I think it's over there. It's about this big. All right. So and it's sold. And it's sold to someone who bought it from I think I have to send it to Virginia or something. They're not even in this area. This one, paintings can humble you. And this was a challenging painting. I had a big kayaker in the front. Okay. And so the scale relationship was the figure was bigger than the landscape. And at a certain point, I realized, go up there and you'll see. I took that kayaker and we went like this. All right. It was about that big. But it was me. I saw myself in a kayak. You understand? Okay. So that's what I was feeling when I was painting this painting, was the feeling of my size to nature and how grand nature can be and how dramatic nature can be. But, I have to make a feeling. So just keep that in mind. This one it was here today or earlier yesterday, and then it was sold and some of the paintings left. I can't tell you, you're challenged to make an idea. You're challenged to make an idea in paint. This is one of these sunset paintings, by the way. The sun was setting over here and I decided to paint this figure. That painting was only this big. And I had to take brushes and he saw his likeness in this painting. All right. I mean, it's really kind of interesting. He did tell me I did correct this right here. Yeah. He told me I made him too fat. All right. So I did correct that. But Paul was a great model. But look at just the brushstroke and the immediacy. That's what I want you to look at. That tells you how long I spent on that painting. You understand? That's the key to that. That's the key to brushing. When you look at de Kooning has been dead for 40 years. But when we look at his brushstroke, it looks like it was just made today. And that's what I want my paintings to be. I don't want them to look like they're in the past. I want to make them look like they're in the present. And a lot has to do with the brush. So I think that's important. And I use my memory, and this was one that I worked and reworked until I decided that I needed a boat in it. All right. So I put a boat in it. This one over here was painted from memory. I did a seascape workshop and I was given a demo for a group of students. I didn't have a photo. I just had the photo in my mind. I had an idea in my mind. But I've been a sailor, so I know what the sea feels like. I'm not copying a photo, and I'm a land person copying the sea and never been on the sea, right? In other words, the more you're connected to the subject, the more you're able to paint it. So the stages of making a painting, just understanding why you choose your subject. All right. I understand myself. And I think the rest is, you're evaluating and you're testing out things. But this is the stage that painting went through. And that's what it looked like. Look at the tree up here. I go at certain times of the year, and the painting is a different time of year. All right. So it's like this was like a week or two before. I mean, I'm sorry, that one up there, and this is where it is now. So all the trees had lost their leaves. Freshness, I tried painting, there's a painting here of that cloud somewhere, unless I sold it. I might have sold it. I don't see it, so I must have sold it last night. It was just, this is the Dolomites, and it's trying to paint a cloud, which I think is really important. And then, of course, choosing your subject, what appeals to you. All right. These things just drive me to them for some reason. But the other thing is doing it more than once. So you see me painting it more than once. And then this one, I've done this pumpkin thing a few times. Lately, you talk about human nature, but this is up at the Homestead Farms. I started this like 3 years ago, but it wasn't finished. All right, because I just had gotten in a certain amount. So I went back for 2 years in a row, and nobody comes to the pumpkin field to pick up pumpkins. The parents all take their kids to the box, and the kids pick the pumpkins out of the box. They don't even go out in the field anymore. All right. So I tell you, this new generation of people. In any case, I did have a woman that showed up for like 5 minutes here, and then there were a couple other ones that came. But this was a fun painting. I just love painting figures like that. So my search is for the elusive essence. Okay. Every one of these paintings has an elusive essence, and I try to find it. And my secret is listen to the music. Okay. And then once you have painted outdoors, it's hard to return indoors to work in the studio. That's it. Okay. I hope that gave you an idea of who I am. Thank you. Um, Anybody have any questions? Go ahead, Doug.
Go back into the studio and
When I go back into the studio, it's just sort of a lot of my paintings sit in the studio. If you want to know how much inventory I have quite a few inventory. I mean, there's 3 times as many paintings in my house as I have here. Okay. And every one of them sits in my studio. One of the things I found is never to put them up in the attic because you'll never see them again. So I put them out all the time around the room, and I just look. And then I'll put a touch here, a touch there when I'm working. But usually when I'm getting ready for a show, I'm in the flow. And I can finish a painting that I've looked at for a year. I can finish it in like 2 strokes. So it's really because I've played with the idea for a long time. So I think this is the way that is. All right. Anyone else? That's a good question. Do you regret selling paintings? No. All right. These are my stepping stones. This is my life. And if I stopped by looking at paintings of the past, I wouldn't make paintings of the future. It's like listening to oldies. We all start listening to oldies, right? But the thing is, I have to progress. I have to keep going. And so they're in my mind, but I'd rather have other people enjoy them. And that's why. Somebody brought that up last night. No, but that's a good story. I understand. I know. This is on the Monocacy battlefield. There is the Park Service has redone this building back to the historic way it was. Really beautiful building. The unfortunate thing is that they use it for their offices, and you get the feeling that there's the presence is missing. Let's put it that way. It's become an office building. But the thing is, it's really got great light on it in the late afternoon, and so I really enjoy painting it. But it's all about the shapes and patterns, and they are appealing. There's no doubt, so I think that's it too. Anyone else? Okay, well, if you do, I would like you to stay and enjoy the show. And if you have any questions, I'll be here to answer anything else that you want to talk about. Okay. Thank you all for coming. Okay. I'm going to just let everybody see our group here. So we see the number of people that are here today. That was great to have you all. So thank you for coming.